Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I want to talk to you about something very serious because I think in the midst of all this foolishness about gun control, we've got something much, much more dangerous. Some years ago, during the Reagan administration, the Lord spoke to me very clearly, and he said, communism will fall in the Soviet Union, but then Russia will be the most dangerous. Well, I saw it fall, I announced it, and people kind of look at you like, oh, you're crazy, and it happened. But we haven't seen the danger yet. But today, Vladimir Putin has announced that the Soviets have nuclear missiles capable of going 20 times the speed of sound. He has got water-launched drones that are nuclear-powered. He has cruise missiles that are nuclear-powered. He has weapons that he said cannot be intercepted. Now, in the old days, the old guys that ran the Soviet Union understood the United States had overwhelming force and that we had what was called mutually assured destruction. It was called MAD. And we knew that we could destroy them and that they had enough military nuclear weapons to destroy us. But nobody in the recent years has actually talked about nuclear war. This man has talked about nuclear war, and he says his missile defense would make NATO defense useless.
Well, Putin made his announcement in a televised speech, and he said one of his new weapons has practically unlimited range. Gary Lane brings us the story.
The Russian president announced his country has developed a new array of more powerful strategic weapons, some that cannot be intercepted. Putin talked of the new missile arsenal during his State of the Russian Union speech. Among the missiles developed, a new ballistic rocket called the Sarmat.
Sarmat is a very powerful, mighty weapon. Due to its characteristics, even prospective anti-ballistic missile systems would not be an obstacle for it.
The power, range, and number of warheads the Sarmat rocket can carry far exceeds the previous generation of Russian long-range missiles. Also developed are a new nuclear-powered cruise missile and a nuclear-powered underwater drone that Putin says would be immune from enemy intercept. Defense experts say, if true, the technological breakthroughs may dramatically increase Russian military capabilities and possibly lead to a new global arms race. Gary Lane, CBN News.
Ladies and gentlemen, the old guys that used to run Russia wouldn't think of going to war with America. Putin feels threatened, but he is a psychopath, and he would be willing to risk war. We're talking about something very serious. And I want you to know the Lord spoke to me about it years and years ago. And I want to repeat it. Communism would fall in the Soviet Union. And it did. It fell. You remember Gorbachev, Glasnost, and all that stuff. It fell. It fell because we had so much technological superiority. And Putin has felt like Russia has been snubbed because it's not powerful enough. Now he's flexing his muscles. And what will happen? Syria, we might decide it's time to take out that vicious Assad because of his chemical weapons. Well, Putin's going to say, don't do it because I'm their defender. And we're going to run the risk of nuclear war. We can't push him but so far anymore because he's got the capability, or will have. We need desperately to have some intelligence to find out whether they're telling the truth or not. But it's extremely serious. Now, the other thing they're doing, in other news, the Russians may be behind a major hack of the German government. Wendy Griffith has that.
That's right, Pat. The hackers were able to break into the German government's secure computer network. The German DPA news agency says the attack was carried out by a Russian-backed hacker group. But today, a member of the German government says it's still too early to link the attack to the Russian group known as APT-28. But he added that there was evidence to believe the hackers had ties to a Russian spy agency. German media says the hackers had stolen data from the defense and foreign ministries. The hack may have lasted as long as a year, Pat.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we're not just fighting war with traditional weapons or thermonuclear weapons. We're fighting a cyber war that is actually more deadly because the enemies, if they have the capability, can render our command and control structure inoperative. And that's what we're looking at here. So while this is going on, I'm pleased to report that Regent University is setting up a cyber specialist training for intensive training on a cyber range. We have an intensive study for a bachelor's degree. We have one for a master's degree and one for a PhD. And people right now are studying, and businesses, including the FBI and the armed forces, are looking at Regent University to train their personnel and their so-called C-suite people, the leadership, in how to, ward off a cyber attack. We have a number. It's 866-910-7615. If you're interested in training in cybersecurity, Regent University is the place to go. There's the number. Write it down, 866-910-7615. You can be a cyber specialist. You can get a master's or a doctorate or a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity. Wendy.
Pat, thousands traveled to Capitol Hill Wednesday to pay their respects to the Reverend Billy Graham as his body laid in honor in the rotunda. Abigail Robertson brings us this story from Washington.
It was a historic moment on Capitol Hill when lawmakers put politics aside for a day to honor America's pastor, Reverend Billy Graham.
Everywhere he went, Reverend Graham delivered the same beautiful message. God loves you.
Billy Graham preached the gospel to millions of people throughout his lifetime, including a young Donald Trump.
My father said to me, "Come on, son." And by the way, he said, "Come on, Mom. Let's go see Billy Graham at Yankee Stadium." And it was something very special.
Reverend Graham is just the fourth citizen to lie in honor here and the first faith leader. Those before him include 2 Capitol Police officers killed in the line of duty and civil rights icon Rosa Parks. The idea first came from Graham's North Carolina Congressman Patrick McHenry, who suggested it to House Speaker Paul Ryan.
I thought it was only fitting and right that we pay that last honor.
Ryan told CBN News it was an easy decision to make.
And we got together and decided this is obviously something we should do.
Reverend Graham's family joined the president and lawmakers for a memorial service after the casket arrived in Washington. Speaker Ryan said if there was ever an American worthy of this honor, it's Reverend Graham.
When our country was on its knees, he reminded us, he convinced us, that is exactly when we find our grace and our strength.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell described Graham as a remarkably humble man who just wanted to share the good news with as many souls as he possibly could.
Billy Graham lifted up our nation, not because he occupied the spotlight so masterfully, but because he knew he wasn't the one who belonged in it.
Following the memorial service, Franklin Graham and other members of the family greeted many of those who waited in long lines to say farewell to the famed evangelist.
He never wanted, attention for himself, always pointing attention to the Lord, and it's just a pattern of integrity.
Reverend Graham's body now heads back to North Carolina for Friday's funeral, which President Trump and the First Lady are expected to attend. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
And Pat, so heartwarming to hear that our president saw Billy Trump at a crusade when he was a boy.
Well, I was working at that particular crusade. I was in charge of the college follow-up for the Queens. I was also a counselor in Madison Square Garden, where the people came by the thousands. That was in '57, and so Billy has had a long and distinguished career, but the thing that stands out above everything else, and I've known him, he came up here, he dedicated this studio I'm in right now, gave a brilliant message, but it's his humility. He just said, I'm a servant of the Lord, I'm a preacher of the gospel, and that's all I am, and the glory should be to Jesus Christ, not to me. And I think every evangelical should be grateful that one who was so faithful to the Bible and faithful to the Lord has been honored the way Billy Graham has in this country. I think we share in that glory that has been accorded him because it's given to those of us who believe in the Lord.